Have you ever been in the middle of a sentence, mid-thought, mid-meaning, when someone cuts in and takes over the conversation as if your words were never there? It happens at dinner tables, in meetings, even among people who claim to respect you. And in that exact moment, something inside you tightens. Your heart speeds up, your mind scrambles. You feel the urge to speak louder, faster, sharper, anything to reclaim your place. Most people react instinctively. They compete for airtime. They fight noise with noise. And without realizing it, they surrender something far more valuable than the floor: their inner order. The more they rush to be heard, the smaller they appear. The conversation turns chaotic, and dignity quietly slips away. Stoicism offers a different response. Not silence as avoidance, but silence as mastery. Not aggression, but composure, so grounded it doesn't need to prove itself. The Stoic understands that interruptions are not a test of volume. They are a test of self-governance. When someone talks over you, the real question is not, how do I stop them, but will I allow this moment to pull me out of myself? In this video, we're not looking at clever comebacks or verbal dominance. We're exploring something far more powerful: 6 calm, intelligent responses, rooted in Stoic philosophy, responses that protect your dignity, reset the balance of the conversation, and quietly command respect without force. By the end, you won't just know what to say when someone interrupts you. You'll understand why pausing is not weakness, why reaction is surrender, and how remaining composed, especially when others are not, is what gives your words real weight. Stay with me. This is about reclaiming your voice without losing your soul. In any conversation, there are always two forces at play. On one side is the interrupter, often restless, impatient, uncomfortable with silence. This person is not necessarily malicious. More often, they are unsettled. Silence feels like a loss of control, so they rush to fill it. Talking over others becomes a way to regulate their own anxiety. On the other side stands the Stoic archetype, the observer. The observer understands something most people miss. Power does not rush. Power does not scramble to reclaim space. It remains centered, even when the environment becomes disorderly. This is where the test appears. When you are interrupted, your nervous system interprets it as a threat. You are being erased. You are losing status. The instinctive reaction is to push back immediately, to speak louder, faster, sharper. But Stoicism teaches that the moment you react without choice, you have already surrendered control. Epictetus reminds us that we cannot govern the actions of others, only our judgments about them. The interruption itself is neutral. What determines the outcome is whether you allow it to disturb your internal equilibrium. From a Stoic lens, stopping mid-sentence is not submission, it is restraint, and restraint is strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a stable mind is one that remains self-contained, even when provoked. The interruption tests exactly this. Can you remain self-contained, or will you outsource your composure to someone else's behavior? Zeno of Citium famously observed that we are given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, not to be silent doormats, but to cultivate discernment. The compulsion to speak immediately, to dominate the moment, reveals a lack of temperance. So before learning what to say, the Stoic establishes this foundation. The goal is not to win the exchange. The goal is to protect the inner sanctuary. When you pass this test, when interruption no longer rattles you, you stop reacting like a participant in chaos and begin responding like its quiet center. Praise 1. I noticed you have something to say. Go ahead. This phrase looks simple, almost polite to the point of disarming. But under a Stoic lens, it is anything but passive. It is an act of deliberate restraint, and restraint is one of the highest expressions of inner strength. When someone interrupts you, they are usually expecting friction, resistance, a scramble to reclaim the floor. That expectation is what fuels the interruption in the first place. By calmly stopping your sentence and saying, "I noticed you have something to say. Go ahead." You remove the very tension they were pushing against. You refuse to compete, and in doing so, you quietly reset the power dynamic. Stoicism teaches that we should never respond from impulse. Epictetus reminds us that what disturbs us is not the action itself, but our judgment about it. The interruption is merely sound. What gives it power is the meaning you attach to it. This phrase is a conscious decision to attach no emotional charge. Notice what happens internally when you use it. Your body slows down. Your breath steadies. You are no longer reacting, you are choosing. That choice alone restores your inner order. You are not silenced. You are paused by intention. And intention is sovereignty. From the outside, the effect is just as telling. The interrupter suddenly finds themselves fully exposed. With no resistance to push against, their urgency often collapses. They may stumble, over-explain, or lose momentum altogether. You have handed them the spotlight at the exact moment they were least prepared to carry it. This is deeply aligned with the Stoic understanding of temperance. Zeno of Citium taught that wisdom is shown not by how quickly we speak, but by how well we govern our impulses. The need to cut in reveals inner agitation. The ability to yield calmly reveals discipline. Most importantly, this phrase is not meant to embarrass or dominate the other person. That would miss the Stoic point entirely. Its purpose is to protect your dignity without hostility. You are signaling, calmly and clearly, that you are not threatened by interruption and therefore not controlled by it. You will notice something subtle over time. When you stop fighting to be heard, people begin listening more carefully when you speak again. Not because you demanded attention, but because you demonstrated composure. Praise 2, "Please finish your thought, then I'll finish mine." This response sits at the intersection of calm and firmness. It neither withdraws nor escalates. It restores order. And in Stoicism, restoring order is an act of justice. When someone interrupts you, the disruption is not only emotional, it is structural. A thought has been cut in half. A sequence has been broken. Most people respond to this break with irritation or defensiveness, which only adds more disorder to the moment. The Stoic does the opposite. They slow the exchange down and re-establish its natural rhythm by saying, "Please finish your thought. Then I'll finish mine." You acknowledge the other person without surrendering your place. You are not asking for permission. You are setting a clear expectation. The conversation will proceed, just not chaotically. This aligns closely with the Stoic virtue of justice, giving each person their proper share. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on acting in ways that maintain harmony without sacrificing self-respect. Justice, in this sense, is not about winning, it is about proportion. One voice at a time, one thought allowed to complete itself. Notice the emotional discipline required here. You pause. You make eye contact. You speak slowly, without edge. There is no accusation in the sentence, only structure. That structure does something powerful. It exposes the interruption as unnecessary without naming it as rude. The contrast speaks for itself. Internally, this phrase protects you from resentment. Instead of swallowing the interruption or lashing out against it, you place it where it belongs, within a rational framework. You remind yourself that your thought still exists. It has not been erased. It is simply waiting. Externally, the effect is often immediate. The interrupter senses that the flow of the conversation is no longer theirs to hijack. Others listening recognize who is grounded and who is not. The room subtly recalibrates. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we stop confusing impulse with necessity. This phrase embodies that lesson. You are not compelled to rush. You are not compelled to compete. You are choosing order over noise. In doing so, you demonstrate something rare: confidence without aggression. And that combination quietly commands respect. Praise 3. Silence. As I was saying, sometimes the most powerful response contains no words at all. In Stoicism, this is not avoidance, it is mastery. When someone interrupts you, the instinct is to fill the gap immediately, to explain, to defend, to signal that you are still present. Silence feels risky because it feels like disappearance. But the Stoic understands a deeper truth. What is steady does not rush to reassert itself. So, when the interruption happens, you stop. Instantly. No sigh, no raised eyebrow, no tightening of the jaw. You remain still, attentive, and composed. You let the other person speak into the space they rushed to occupy. You give them exactly what they asked for without giving them your reaction. This is the purest expression of temperance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the disciplined mind remains untouched even while surrounded by disorder. In this moment, your silence is not empty, it is contained. It signals that your center is intact. What follows is often revealing. Without resistance to push against, the interrupter frequently loses momentum. Their words may become scattered. Their point may drift. They were not prepared to carry the full weight of attention. They were only prepared to seize it. You watch, you wait, and when they trail off, you pause for one additional beat. A deliberate beat, not to punish but to re-establish rhythm. Then calmly you say, "As I was saying." You resume your sentence exactly where you left off. No recap, no apology, no acknowledgement of the interruption. You treat it like a passing cloud that momentarily crossed the sky but did not alter the sun's course. Epictetus taught that we are harmed not by events, but by the meanings we assign to them. By continuing without comment, you assign the interruption no special meaning at all. You deny it emotional significance. This is why the technique works so consistently. It communicates, without confrontation, that your thought did not disappear, and neither did your authority. You did not compete for the floor. You waited for order to return, then spoke from within it. In a world addicted to reaction, this kind of silence feels unsettling, and that is precisely its strength. Praise 4. Are you interrupting because you thought I was finished, or because you don't want to hear the rest? This phrase is not meant for every situation. It is reserved for moments when interruptions are repeated, deliberate, or dismissive. And it requires something essential in Stoicism: the courage to bring truth into the open without hostility. At first glance, the question sounds confrontational, but under a Stoic lens, it is neither aggressive nor accusatory. It is diagnostic. You are not attacking the person, you are examining the behavior. And there is a crucial difference. Most interruptions happen on autopilot. People cut in without reflecting on why they are doing it. By asking this question, you interrupt the interruption itself. You force the other person out of impulse and into awareness. That shift alone often changes the entire dynamic. The key is tone. This must be delivered with genuine curiosity, not sarcasm. Stoicism rejects sarcasm because it disguises emotion as wit. Epictetus taught that clarity begins when we stop smuggling resentment into our words. Your voice should be calm, steady, almost neutral, as if you are asking for clarification, not asserting dominance. Notice the structure of the question. It offers two explanations. One is innocent, the other is uncomfortable. Most people will instinctively choose the innocent option. In doing so, they publicly recommit to fairness. They often respond with something like, "No, I thought you were done. Please continue." Without raising your voice, you have reset the boundary. This aligns with the Stoic devotion to reason. Marcus Aurelius emphasized bringing unconscious reactions into the light of rational examination. When behavior is named calmly, it loses much of its power. Internally, this phrase protects you from silent resentment. Instead of swallowing disrespect or exploding later, you address the issue at the moment it occurs cleanly, precisely, and without emotional spillover. That is emotional hygiene. Externally, it reframes the interruption as a breach of order, not a personal attack. Others in the room feel the shift. The conversation slows. Awareness replaces momentum. This is Stoic strength in its mature form, not silence, not aggression, but truth, spoken calmly, at the right time. Praise 5. I'm going to pause you there. I wasn't quite done. There is a common misunderstanding that Stoicism means enduring everything quietly. It does not. Stoicism is not passivity. It is disciplined action, and sometimes disciplined action means drawing a clear line. This phrase is for moments when interruption becomes forceful or habitual, when silence would be misread, when yielding would quietly train the other person to continue. In these moments, the Stoic does not raise their voice. They lower it. I'm going to pause you there. I wasn't quite done. Notice the language. The word pause matters. It implies control over the flow of the interaction. Not domination, but stewardship. You are not accusing. You are not reacting. You are naming what is happening and correcting the course. Stoicism values facts over emotional interpretation. Epictetus taught that peace comes from seeing reality as it is, not as our agitation paints it. I wasn't quite done is a factual statement. There is no insult in a fact. There is no need to defend it. The delivery is everything. Your tone should be low, steady, unhurried, no sharp edges, no upward inflection. A downward, grounded cadence signals composure. The contrast between their urgency and your calm does the work for you. Internally, this phrase protects self-respect. You are acknowledging your own words as worthy of completion. That matters. Many people feel disrespected in conversation, not because others are loud, but because they themselves hesitate to protect their own voice. This phrase corrects that quietly. Externally, it re-establishes structure. The interrupter is reminded that the conversation has boundaries. Others in the room notice who is steady and who is reactive. Authority shifts not through volume, but through gravity. Marcus Aurelius wrote about acting without excess, even when firmness is required. This is firmness without force, boundary without bitterness. Used sparingly, this phrase teaches people how to engage with you. It signals that while you are composed, you are not dismissible. And in Stoic terms, that balance, calm paired with clarity, is where dignity lives. Praise 6. You seem very passionate. Why don't you start? I'll follow. This final phrase is the most subtle and in many ways the most revealing. It is not designed to stop interruption through resistance, but to dissolve it through detachment. When someone cuts in repeatedly, there is often a strong emotional charge behind it. Urgency, excitement, anxiety, a need to be seen. By saying, "You seem very passionate. Why don't you start? I'll follow." You are gently naming that emotional energy without condemning it. And in Stoicism, naming emotion is often enough to weaken its grip. This response reflects the Stoic understanding that reason loses ground when emotion takes over. Zeno of Citium taught that excess, whether of anger, eagerness, or pride, signals a lack of inner balance. By labeling the other person's passion calmly, you are holding up a mirror. You are not shaming them. You are making the dynamic visible. What makes this phrase powerful is the benevolent yield. You step out of the contest entirely. You give them the floor, not as a concession, but as a choice. And paradoxically, when people are given full permission to speak, they often discover they have less to say than they thought. The thrill of interruption disappears once there is no resistance to overcome. Internally, this phrase protects you from entanglement. You are no longer invested in controlling the exchange. You have returned to the observer's position. Epictetus reminded us that freedom begins the moment we stop needing others to behave differently in order to remain calm. By yielding voluntarily, you demonstrate that your composure is not dependent on their restraint. Externally, the effect is striking. Others in the room sense your ease. Your lack of urgency signals confidence. When you eventually speak, your words arrive without strain, and that makes people listen. This phrase is not about disappearing. It is about choosing the high ground. You are refusing to fight for scraps of attention. You are waiting for the noise to burn itself out. In Stoic terms, this is the final lesson. When you stop chasing the moment often returns to you quieter, slower, and ready to receive what you have to say. All 6 responses work for the same reason, and it has nothing to do with verbal cleverness. They work because they shift the center of control back where Stoicism insists it belongs, inside you. Most conversational power struggles are driven by urgency. The interrupter rushes because they feel unsettled. The interrupted reacts because they feel threatened. When both sides are pulled by impulse, the exchange becomes noisy, reactive, and shallow. Stoicism breaks this loop by refusing to reward urgency with reaction. At its core, Stoicism teaches self-governance. Epictetus made this explicit. Freedom is not the absence of interference, but the ability to remain inwardly undisturbed by it. Each phrase you've learned does exactly that. It protects your inner order first, before it tries to manage the outer interaction. Notice the common thread. None of these responses rush. None of them compete. None of them try to dominate. They all slow the moment down. And when you slow a chaotic interaction, something predictable happens. The person acting from impulse begins to feel exposed. Their urgency has nowhere to land. This is why silence works. This is why calm phrasing works. This is why yielding, when done consciously, often creates more authority than resistance. You are no longer playing the same game. Marcus Aurelius wrote that true strength is being able to remain upright when others lose balance. These responses keep you upright. They prevent you from being pulled into the emotional weather of the room. The paradox is simple. When you stop fighting to be heard, your words begin to carry more weight. When you stop reacting to interruption, interruption loses its leverage. People listen more carefully to those who speak less, but from a place of composure. This is the Stoic recalibration. You don't silence others by force. You outgrow the need to wrestle for attention. And when your presence is no longer reactive, the room adjusts around you. That is why this works not socially, but philosophically. Because calm is not the absence of power. It is the source of it. If you step back and look at the full arc, a quiet pattern emerges. None of these responses were about controlling other people. None of them were designed to win a moment or dominate a room. They were all about protecting your inner order when the world becomes noisy. You were never meant to compete for space. You were never meant to rush your thoughts to earn permission to finish them. When someone interrupts you, the Stoic question is not, "How do I stop this?" It is, "Will I abandon myself to respond to this?" Each phrase you've learned is simply a different way of answering that question with composure. The Stoics understood something timeless. Dignity does not come from being heard immediately. It comes from being rooted. When you remain grounded, when you refuse to be pulled into urgency, your presence changes the rhythm of the room. Conversations slow, attention sharpens, and your words spoken without strain begin to matter more. Silence restores authority. Not because silence is intimidating, but because it signals self-command. It tells the world that your voice does not chase relevance, it waits for clarity. As you move through your week, notice the next interruption. Notice the tightening in your chest, the urge to rush, the impulse to react. Pause there. That pause is the practice. Choose one response, not to correct the other person, but to remain aligned with yourself. Which response will you practice this week to protect your inner order? Comment with, "My voice doesn't rush," like this video if you're choosing composure over reaction. Subscribe if you're walking the Stoic path where strength is quiet, boundaries are calm, and authority begins within.